Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for coming out. This meeting is a follow-up of a meeting we had this summer with regard to neighborhood stores and their impact in the community. We, at that meeting, took testimony from a lot of people in the community who had concerns about how stores in the community were impacting the quality of life. And we received those comments, and we have been working ever since with the Chief of Police, Henry White, who was here, Director Finch, who was here for licensing and inspection, next to him Chief Barnhart, and next to him Chief Sarkis, and of course our legal department represented by Carl Timbers, who is a assistant city solicitor. Some of the concerns that they addressed, as a city council person, I have been interested in making sure that we coordinate a response to those concerns that would, first of all, make sure that the quality of life of the neighborhoods are maintained. Secondly, that the businesses have a chance to cooperate, and you'll hear later on this evening how that can happen, so they can work together to make things better. And then thirdly, to make sure that we're moving forward as a city with a vibrant business community, and with more than that, a vibrant neighborhood community. So tonight is a follow-up on that. Let me say that we've sent letters out to all of the neighborhood stores that are concerned, not concerned, let me retract that. We've sent out letters to all of the neighborhood stores in the Uptown area, in the West Side area, and in Bungalow Park. And I am sure that they are concerned, as we are, that the problems that people in the community have addressed us are worked on and are solved. So this is our second attempt in this, and we're going to continue. There are going to be efforts to make sure that the businesses comply with the existing laws and procedures and practices, and that we have cooperative efforts with all of the city departments to make sure that your concerns are addressed. So tonight what we're going to do, we're going to have statements from the Atlantic City Police Department, then the Department of License and Inspections about what they're doing to work with the stores and work with the community, and then we'll have comments from the public. And we want to ask you if you have a comment regarding this, only this. And we understand that everybody has concerns, and we appreciate your concerns. But tonight, if you have a comment about the stores and about how they impact your community, we'll receive that. If you have another comment or concern, we would ask that you hold that for another time. You can give it to me as a council person, even if it's not in my ward, and I'll receive it. But tonight we would ask if you just target and focus your remarks on the stores and what you hear from the people who are going to be presenting today. If you would do that, I think that would make the meeting beneficial. Let me cut to the end. When we close this meeting, what we hope to have accomplished is the beginning of a dialogue that is a continuation of commitments to meet your concerns. We heard your concerns in the summer. Now we want to fashion a way to address those concerns. So that at the close of the meeting, we will hopefully have steps that will be able to be taken to improve our condition and improve the concerns that you brought to us. So we're going to start off with the Atlantic City Police Department, who will make their presentation with regard to how the police department is going to be working with the businesses and the community on the concerns addressed so far.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Councilman Sabatis. Good evening, everyone. We have been receiving a lot of complaints from different convenience stores throughout Atlantic City. Complaints arising from disorderly conduct out in front of the establishments, people loitering, drug dealing from some of the businesses. We've also been receiving complaints from some of the businesses themselves about undesirables coming inside of their stores, different verbal and physical confrontations that have taken place when these individuals are asked to leave the establishments. As a matter of fact, we had a store merchant stabbed last night on Atlantic Avenue by someone in his business in the 1700 block of Atlantic Avenue. So we've been setting up plainclothes details on Atlantic Avenue. We had foot patrols, and we're trying to come up with a happy medium between the business owners and the residents of Atlantic City to try to come to some cooperative agreement where we're maintaining some level of quality of life for everybody, but also respecting the right of the store merchants to earn a living. We're working along for a while with Director Finch's office on a nuisance ordinance and excessive use ordinance to go after some of the property owners where they are generating more costs for services than, say, someone else. So that's ongoing. We've also been checking with our counterparts around the country and some of the programs and plans that they have put into place to curtail the same problems that we're experiencing here. And one of the things that we're looking at, but it's something that council would have to do, is to restrict the number of hours that some of these convenience stores are allowed to operate. I know that we're a 24-hour town, but I mean, whatever we do, it would have to be citywide. You just couldn't single out one particular store over another. And another project that we're working on to tie into our 24-hour surveillance center is a project called Project PACT. It's an acronym for Protecting Atlantic City Together. And it's a camera sharing program. And I'm gonna let Deputy Chief Sarkos explain in more detail what that is. And if we can encourage a lot of our store merchants to join into this pact, they would get a lot of additional help because we would be able to monitor what is going on, not only in front of their stores, but inside of their stores on a 24-hour basis. So I'm gonna withhold any further comment because I do wanna hear some concerns or some suggestions from the public and you guys from the community, what we could do to help improve the quality of life here in Atlantic City as it represents these various businesses. But I do want Deputy Chief Sarkos to explain Project PACT.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. The Project PACT is copied off of Detroit's Project Greenlight. And in Detroit, Michigan, it started off at gas stations, and they were having a problem with crime occurring at certain gas stations. So they initiated this project where gas stations put high-quality cameras, and they connected those cameras back to the Detroit Police Department through a system called Genetec, which is the video management system that we use at the Atlantic City Police Department. And one of the things they did at these gas stations is that if you were a Project Greenlight participant, they put a green light at the gas station on the sign, and that let individuals know, customers felt a little more secure knowing that that place had good camera access that was remotely available to the police department, and it also let would-be criminals know that this is an area that has good camera coverage and don't commit your crimes here. So we have a similar project in Atlantic City. We call it Project PACT, P-A-C-T, Protecting Atlantic City Together, where we ask businesses, residents, and basically anyone who has a video camera that allows for the remote viewing of that camera to share it with our police department. As a lot of you may or may not know, we have a 24/7 surveillance center in the police department. It's staffed around the clock with retired officers. They're doing virtual patrols through these camera systems, and we have had very good results with it. We've made a lot of arrests. We feel like we've made a lot of areas safer that we have remote access to the cameras, and we feel that it's been a very good deterrent to crime because as soon as individuals know that we have these cameras up and that we're watching them, it sends a strong message out. And a lot of the businesses that have participated in it, I think, if you speak to them, you'll find that they've received very good results from it. And the next phase of Project PACT will be giving out the signage. So the businesses who do participate in Project PACT can put this signage in their store, letting everyone know that they're a Project PACT participant. But it can't just be, you know, low quality, poor cameras. So if you're going to be a Project PACT participant, we want high quality cameras that are sufficiently placed on the property to cover both inside and outside the property. So if anything does happen, we can refer back to those cameras to help solve that crime. And one of the things we found at the police department is, you know, it's great when a business has cameras, A lot of times we get to, let's just say it's a store, we get to the store and we find that the clerk doesn't have access to the cameras. And we gotta wait the next day until the manager comes in. And a lot of times the manager is kind of thumbing around with the system, is not quite sure how to pull up the video, and it just takes a long time. And then we finally get it out, and now it's sometimes 12 hours, 24 hours later. When we have remote access to the cameras, and in real time, we then look and see what's happening. So a call for service comes in at that location, we're pulling up the cameras and we're seeing live what's going on. And then we also have the ability to rewind that camera and see what just transpired. So before the officer even gets to the scene, a lot of information is now being given to the officers, a description of what's going on, description of suspects, direction of flight. And as you can imagine, it's been a tremendous asset to us. We're able to take screenshots of the suspect we're looking for, get that out to the officers in the street if the suspect has left before our arrival. I think if you kind of wrap your head around that, you can see the great ability that gives us to help do our jobs. So what we really would like to do is see a lot of the convenience stores become Project PAC participants and partner with us in this initiative, and I think it's going to go a long way in helping us solve this problem.
I just want to add one thing. It would take the owners off of the business owners, because they won't have to scatter the loiterers in front of their business away. We will be able to see that before the owner even calls, and then we'll be the ones that come and address the loitering and whatnot around the various businesses. So it would make the owners and the workers in the stores so much safer than what they are right now if we had access to their exterior cameras.
And the other great thing about it too is when the calls for service aren't coming in, that our retired police officers who staff the surveillance center are doing virtual patrols. So we have a particular area where there's been an uptick in calls for service or an uptick of complaints by residents. They're going to prioritize those cameras for their virtual patrols. And as you can imagine, we put an officer on the street and he's doing surveillance. He's kind of stuck with this limited view. And now we have an officer in a surveillance center, and he might have 30-something cameras pulled up and kind of glancing between all these cameras and looking for activity, and they can focus on it. So it just makes us so much more efficient and effective at getting that area coverage and looking for crimes to occur. If you could just kind of think about that, one officer out in the street's got that very limited field of view, but sitting behind this computer, and weather doesn't really matter, you're sitting there comfortably and watching these cameras and looking for crime to occur. It's been a big help.
Chief or Deputy Chief, if there's some owners here, if they want to participate in the program, how do they do that? They get in touch with the police department? What's the process for them to participate?
Thank you. So we created a web address, so if anyone wants to participate, they can simply email us at pact@acpolice.org, and that will go to the right people, including myself and the police department. They'll get you hooked up. Now, we use a Genetec video management system, but you don't have to be on Genetec. We have many businesses who share camera feeds with us through whatever system they have, but you got to make sure that you have good internet connection, so your upload speed is pretty sufficient, so we have no issues connecting back. And some stores have chose to go with like off-the-shelf systems that aren't so robust, so we'd like you to have a decent system. I know a lot of businesses have chosen Hikvision, and we actually just got a Hikvision decoder back at our police department. So if you have a Hikvision system, which seems to be a common system that a lot of businesses are using, we can plug your Hikvision system into our decoder. And what that allows us to do, it allows us to push it out to all the computers at the police station in our surveillance center, without having to go to every single computer and download that software. So when you have a Hikvision system, I just plug it right in, and now I have access to all the computers in the station, and I don't have to. It just makes things a lot easier for me and a lot quicker to do that. So whether you guys have Hikvision, Genetec, or some other system, just send us an email. We'll look and see what you got and get you hooked up.
Is that a long process for the store owners to do that? Like what we're going to do on council, I'm introduce a resolution encouraging them to make sure that they get with the police to sign up. So if a store owner gets that concern from myself as a councilman or the council in general, how long would it take them to actually get implement that?
Yeah, so if they have one of those three systems, they have Hikvision, they have Genetec, or if you have Jersey Shore CCTV is another one we have a lot of access to, we can do it in a couple hours. If you don't have a system like that, then we'll have to sit down and look at it and see if your system has the ability to be watched remotely, whether or not you have it hooked up to the internet, and you have it set up so that we can do it or not. But usually it's pretty easy, as long as you have a modern system that has remote viewing capabilities.
Anything else, Chief?
No, not for right now. That's it for right now.
Okay. Director Finch?
Yes, good evening. License and inspections really has a lot of interaction, which I'm sure you know, with all the various convenience stores in the city. At the meeting this past summer, the councilman asked if I could provide a list of all the convenience stores in the city. There's like 97 neighborhood stores that we have identified. Now, with license and inspections, we have the construction division. So if you're going to open a new store or make renovations, you need permits and you need to get COs. From that point, we have the environmental health unit, and they're here tonight as well, that comes in and does an inspection to make sure you're in compliance with all the state and local requirements. From that point, you will then go to the mercantile division, and they're here tonight as well. And that's an annual basis where you get your license renewed with a mercantile. So they have interaction with all the various stores on a regular basis. And then last, we have code enforcement. And that's where we go out into the areas, and if there's some issues that need to be addressed in the neighborhoods, in the stores with trash and unsightly areas that need to be improved upon. So our inspectors are constantly out there, and I think we can play a major role in helping to improve the quality of life, working very closely with ACPD. If we find stores that are in violation of not only the code laws, but of other some criminal type laws, we can then revoke the mercantile license, prohibit them from continuing. So we're here to work with you to make sure that you're in compliance and to move the neighborhoods forward, make them safer. Between ACPD and L&I, we can work together to make an impression on the citywide.
Director, can you explain briefly the excess ordinance?
Excessive
calls?
use, yes, okay. We have an ordinance that requires the monitoring of calls for service. And depending upon the store, or the size of the building, the size of the location, so many calls would generate what we call an excessive use location. At that point, we would then notify the owner the fact that there are many police calls there, try to investigate the reason for the police calls, working with ACPD, determine if they're valid calls, and then from that point, we would issue fines to the locations in an effort to get them to better monitor what's going on in their location. So this is a process where we receive the police calls for service, we review them, we monitor it, and we plug it into the numbers that are in the code as far as the calls for that particular building, or that particular store, or that location. So it's something we've been working on, and we need a little bit more effort from our internal staff to get it implemented properly, but we're getting close to it.
That was my next question. When do you foresee that system will actually be
Well,
live?
we've been using it right now pretty good with the rooming house issues in the city. And we have made some inroads there. Some of the rooming houses have had excessive calls for service. We did close down one that we felt was really needed to be addressed. That was Fox Manor. That was a kind of a hotel rooming house kind of a venue. A couple others are on the cusp of violating the excessive use ordinance. And we're also trying to work through the CRDA to hopefully come up with a plan to eliminate some of the rooming houses in the city. We have 43 in the city. The population is probably around 700 people living in their rooming houses. And based on state and city code, we have an excess of rooming houses and an excess of people populating those rooming houses. So that's something we need to do with the efforts of the ACPD and L&I to really work to get, and CRDA, to get the rooming houses in compliance, and those that aren't, we hope we can close them down.
Director, for the, until you get the system live, if people in the community have a concern about a store, with some of the things that we've indicated has happened and they have talked about, what should they do?
Well, they can contact the Department of License and Inspections. The number is 347-5290, and from there we'll generate or take the call and dispose it to the right agency, the right division. So call in and we'll come out and we'll check it out. We want to get really down in the weeds, so to speak, to look at what's going on and to make sure that everybody's in compliance and that they're working towards, again, the improving the quality of your life for the city.
Anything else?
That's all I have right now.
Okay. Anything else from the police before we take questions? Did you have any of your departments that you want to say anything, Director? Or they're just...
They're here, we have code enforcement, we have health, and we have mercantile here tonight to, if you have any specific questions, they could respond to those. But they're here to listen and hear what you have to say and make some suggestions.
Okay, we'll take questions now. As I said before, we want you to focus your questions just on the neighborhood stores and the impact. First of all, let me say, we appreciate everyone coming out, taking their time to participate, and also to all of the department heads, the police and chiefs, and Carl for being up here, and our council president. Would you want to make some remarks, Council President? All right. I was just saying that the council is united with the AC Police, the Department of License and Inspection, to make sure that we improve the quality of life in the neighborhoods with regard to the stores. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chief.
I do want to add one thing, actually two things. When we do take enforcement action against some of the businesses, we've got complaints where drug dealing is being undertaken out of some of the stores. We'll set up an investigation, we'll get a search warrant, and then we'll arrest the store merchant or someone that's working in the store. That's just one part of the process. As far as now revoking their mercantile license, that's beyond the means of the police department. And recently we've run into some issues where we have taken enforcement action, charged ownership of the stores, but their licenses were able to still be maintained. Of course, at that point, civil court and all that gets involved. So we may take enforcement action, but that doesn't mean that that particular store is going to go out of business. Some of other things that we're seeing, when we take enforcement action against a store, the ownership will change hands, and they will get a new merc in someone else's name, and they're allowed to reopen. That's just the way the law works. But the second thing I want to say, from the police department standpoint, we're not targeting stores. We're just going after and trying to improve the quality of life for everyone, because the stores are needed here in the community. So we're trying to get some happy medium where everyone is comfortable in their neighborhoods and not afraid to go visit a local store or walk from their house down the street. That's the role and the purpose of ACPD.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. We'll take questions now for the police department or for Director Finch with regard to this topic only. Who wants to be first?
All right.
Okay.
Do I need the mic?
No, you don't need
I
to.
don't need the mic. Thank you so much. My name is Collins Days. I'm the pastor of Second Baptist Church. I live in the 3rd Ward and down the street from many of the corner stores. Thank you so much for all of you, and my councilman and city council president, thank you, and all of you who are here. Something interesting, as Director Finch made mention of, there are 97 convenience stores in Atlantic City that only has 48 blocks. That's 2 stores per block. You know, how, you know, the question is, you know, how can so many of those stores survive in such a small town and be able to stay open? I mean, you know, maybe the ordinance ought to be that, you know, like you do with liquor licenses, limited amount of convenience stores in the city. Because the question that really boggles my mind, how can so many stores continue to do business in a small town? You know, 2 stores a block? That's something to think about.
Next.
I was here for the last meeting.
Yes.
I'm Charmaine Hall.
Right.
And I thought this meeting was gonna be, we were gonna be able to talk to y'all were gonna talk to the store owners.
Well, we invited them, Ms. Hall. Just for the record, we sent a letter. Director Finch has provided me with a list of all the store owners, and we sent a letter to all of the store owners and invited them to attend. It was in the newspaper.
Maybe
It was
something
on the
I've done.
radio. Well, I can't speak for their decision, but I can say this. I can say that every store owner got a letter inviting them to attend in enough time. Maybe some of them were short-staffed. I would not want to say that their non-attendance indicates that they're not interested, because I won't speak for them. But I will say this, that's why I said before, what we're going to do is start a campaign to try to get them to sign up with the PAC. I don't think we can't do legislation to get them to do that, can we, Carl?
We can't force them to sign up, but it is something we can provide information to them. And something's,
I just heard.
So we want to encourage them to do that actively. We can pass a resolution. I'm introducing a resolution at the December meeting. We're going to write them again, and we're going to intensify, I don't want to say pressure, but awareness that the council, as the council president is here, supportive, and all the council, we are concerned because we live here. And in addition to representing people, we're neighbors. So when you're concerned, we're concerned.
I'm concerned.
Reverend Days is concerned, we're concerned, and everyone. So we're not just going to stop, we're going to continue doing everything we can legally. We're going to look at legislation that the directors talked about, to put legislation on the books. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that these stores conform and that they can do business too. And we'll look at what Reverend Days just, that's why we have someone from the legal department. If we can legally restrict the number of stores, we'll do that.
Okay, now, Councilman.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I live in this neighborhood, and the chief had said, if I'm not mistaken, that they just can't shut them down or they just can't take away their license.
Right.
But I'm saying to myself is, why there's not 97 in Margate, Longport, like I said the last time I was
Right.
here?
Right.
Why we don't have 97 stores over in those neighborhoods, Vintner and all them, but we got them in Atlantic City in our neighborhood? And like I told you from my testimony last time, where I grew up, everybody that had a store in my neighborhood looked like me.
I remember.
And now we got all these stores, but ain't nobody in the stores look like us.
Mhm.
But y'all saying that we have to just accept that if they don't want to come. I'm not saying you speaking for them.
Right.
To me, it seems that they don't care. To me, and that's my opinion, and I'm here as a resident because I live in the neighborhood. And like I said the last time I was here, that when they do their business, they take their money, they go home to another quiet neighborhood and leave us here with all this baggage. So don't get upset with me because I'm frustrated that they're not here. And I think the ones that did come out to hear what y'all happen to say about the cameras and all the other stuff y'all going to do. But if we going to have another meeting, y'all going to keep sending out letters. And I don't think that they have to come to our neighborhood. Every time they want to set up something, it's going to be drugs or something to tear down our neighborhood or the marijuana plant clinic. They want to put it in our neighborhood, and then they want to lock our kids up when they selling the drugs, when they doing the drugs. They want to kill our kids, but they don't take all these stores in their neighborhood, in other neighborhoods. Because you know why? Because if somebody that wasn't the color of my skin was complaining and calling the police, they would take their license, they would get them out of their neighborhood. If it was a white neighborhood, they wouldn't let them go there. And they go home in peace and quiet and not all this gunfire and all these sirens. So I am frustrated. I got 4 grandsons that is going to grow up, and they're teenagers now. And I don't want them caught up on that corner.
Yes, ma'am.
And then y'all kill my grandkids, and I'm on the news next. Another black mother crying because somebody done killed my grandsons or my son. Because y'all can't get all this out of our neighborhood. But every time they want to build something, y'all just let them come to Atlantic City, take it in the black neighborhood. They ain't going to come out. They don't care, but we do care. And we still crying about our boys.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Steve Young, and I echo everything you said, and been saying it for years. And, you know, it's a serious problem that we have here in Atlantic City. With the businesses, everybody know where they at, Renaissance Plaza, Kentucky Avenue, Tennessee Avenue, 1700 block.
Mhm.
And it's a shame that these businesses and these stores, it's about supply and demand. I mean, what is keeping these young people out in front of these stores? What are you supplying them? What are their demands?
Mhm.
And we've seen transactions. So we see them, law enforcement see them. And I just want to echo one thing that the chief said. When it comes to enforcement, if the law is there, why isn't it enforced? if you need the people to come to the legal part about their licenses, I'm sure everybody in this room will be more than glad to be able to testify what's going on in our neighborhoods and the type of monies that's going out and the type of business that's been going on. When it comes to the Lucy's, cigarettes, if it's illegal, why are they still doing it? It's hard to understand that we see this happening. The police come, they lock up the owners, and it's back up there the next day. Only in our neighborhoods. Like she said, it's mostly the black neighborhoods that these convenience stores are in. And most of them that even work there don't look like us. So the dollar's not even being spent here after it's being spent in our neighborhoods. That's a key thing to us being able to be successful in our neighborhoods, for the dollar to continue to circulate. But if the dollar gonna keep leaving our communities, how are we gonna have jobs? A lot of young people, a lot of people, older people wanna work. They can work in some of these stores. And finally, the sensitivity of some of the workers and the owners of these stores needs to be checked. There's been a lot of fights, racial issues is going on in these businesses and stores that we have to deal with daily. So that's when people come and they knock on my door and say, listen, Mr. Young, look what they did. They cussed out my mother, they did this, they did that. And I'm like, where the men? When's somebody gonna stand up and say no? So we actually had to go to the owner and shut the store down and say, listen, you can't do business like that. If you're gonna disrespect the people that have been giving you money to keeping you open. We shouldn't have to do that if the enforcement is done right. And we would be more than glad to back you up with that. And if those cameras are needed in some of those businesses, they need to sign up. Some of you businesses, if you're here today and you're willing to sign up for that pack, you need to come up here and stand up and say where your business is and say you're willing to do that. That's a stop of communication and togetherness with our community.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Next.
My name's Henry McCants. I work with U.S. Security, work with the Renaissance is my detail. I agree with you on the convenience stores, but what I'm seeing a lot in the last 6 weeks is we had to call in the Atlantic City Medical Center 23 times for an ambulance for somebody who came out of Payless liquor store intoxicated and literally fell on the sidewalk. Narcotics is an issue, but alcohol is a narcotic. And if people are serving out of liquor stores, people that can't even walk at a register, more alcohol, then there should be an issue there too.
You
Just
said
like a bar
23?
has a right to stop serving another individual.
You said you had 23 calls?
23 ambulance calls in 6 weeks,
Oh, 6 weeks, okay.
in a 5-day-a-week period. We've called 23 times because either the person was intoxicated, coming out of Payless, falling in the, I have the Arctic all the way up to Atlantic, Tennessee to New York. I clean a lot, I do the trash, and we have an office right next door to Save a Lot. It was part of Save a Lot, but it was separate.
Without violating anyone's privacy, could you get those statistics to Director Finch? Those calls, if you could do that?
We'll take care of that,
Okay.
that you brought it to.
It was,
our
Okay, it was chief.
We'll get all of those calls and services, and we can use
but
that.
there were many, and we've even actually called ACPD to come and clear the front of Payless shoe store, or Payless liquor. And the officers come, they leave, the people come right back. All they do is walk around the back of the building and come back. It's alcohol right now in that particular area, and that's all I can speak for, because I'm not really, going around the streets looking for people in Atlantic City. But in that area where I work, it seems to be an 86%, okay? I see like 40 people on this sidewalk in this little area, and they're urinating behind the pillars in front of children, in front of mothers, and it's becoming a thing where it's dominating into a domino effect, where it's becoming a threat for not only the customers of the local stores, but also for the security and the people coming by.
Well, let me say this, that's the district I represent, and I am, as Ms. Hall said, frustrated by the liquor store's presence there. And I've been talking to my friends in the CRDA, and we are looking for a way, if we possibly can, to get that liquor store out of there. I believe that liquor store is one of the reasons that we have so many problems in Renaissance Plaza and that whole area. They're not the sole reason,
No,
but I believe they're
absolutely
one of
not.
the main contributors.
Right.
So we're working with CRDA, and I don't want to speak for CRDA, Mr. Landgraf is here. I understand that they have a 99-year lease, is that correct, Lance?
Yes, sir.
And they have a 99-year lease, and that's one of the reasons that we can't get them out of there. I don't know of a legal way that we can get them out of there. And Lance, I don't want to put you on the spot, but has the CRDA looked at that question? If you could come up.
Sure.
And again, this is Lance Landgraf from the
Thank you,
CRDA.
Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
for
Thank
letting
you
me share.
very much.
Yeah, I'm Lance Landgraf. I'm the Director of Planning at CRDA. Matt and I have spoke. We've had our legal counsel look into that lease. It's a pretty powerful lease.
Right.
And it's not the lease with the liquor store, it's a lease with the landlord that operates the entire plaza.
Exactly.
So we are looking at options. We might have to get creative. If they're creating a nuisance, that should be something we could use as leverage to force that certain store out of there.
Well, you just heard what that gentleman
I
said.
absolutely did. I
Thank
took notes and
Okay.
I could read them to you. CRDA needs to act on this.
Right.
This is something that we need to get involved with. I was gonna speak later, but I'll
Go ahead.
chime in now. We've been working with Dale and your police department, Deputy Chief Sarkis and Barnhart, we're working on these rooming houses. This is something else we need to focus on as well. Whether it's inside or outside the tourism district, this is Atlantic City.
Right.
Something we need to be a partner in. I know we're working on more cameras, working on more police officers, so that'll help, I hope. So those are things that we're working on. I also want to say something as a commissioner in the city of Ventnor, to you, Chief, and you guys. Great assist on our issue we had a couple weeks ago. That shows the power of these cameras.
Right.
We had a murder in our community.
Mhm.
That suspect was caught in 15 hours because of what those cameras were able to do, what your officers were able to do with that surveillance. That's a great success. Sorry to lose a resident of my community, but I want to thank you guys for that, because that's a huge assist from a neighbor. So from our council, our commission to you guys, I appreciate that. On getting back to the stores, if there's anything we can do from a land use standpoint, we'll work with Dale on that. But I think it's more getting these cameras out there and getting police officers involved where they can be. And if we can do something with Renaissance Plaza, that's critical.
We would appreciate whatever you can do. Let me just say, Lance, you and Matt and Marshall at CRDA have been good partners. The council president, as you know, set up regular meetings
Yep.
with city council and our governmental committee and you. And I think we're going to see some progress. Let me just ask everybody in the audience who is a community member, if you could help us, when you go into the stores in your area, if you can ask them, are they participating in the pact that Chief Sarkis helped? If we can start to get support, because we're gonna do it at the council level, asking the store owners to please get into the pact and help with the cameras. If you can do it as a customer, that would help us. Good. If you go in the stores, if you don't go in the stores. Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome.
Good. Bless you.
I want to add something to the Payless Liquor Store. I mean, that's been a big concern and a big frustration of the PD as well. Because of the excessive year lease agreement that they had. But one thing that we're looking at, because we've been getting a lot of complaints from Steve Young and others in reference to Renaissance Plaza, is restricting the type of alcohol that is sold out of the liquor stores in Atlantic City. We believe the reason why Payless Liquor Store is attracting so many quote-unquote homeless people or alcoholics to that particular store is they sell the cheapest alcohol in Atlantic City. They sell those little bottles, they call them flingers, and they're real cheap. A lot of other liquor stores don't sell those. So, and it also increases aggressive begging in and around the Renaissance Plaza area, because they'll beg for money, they'll get you enough to go buy that cheap alcohol. So probably we need to sit down with the solicitor's office and come up with a city ordinance to restrict the type of alcohol that is sold, because why are these same people going to other liquor stores in Atlantic City? It's the type of alcohol that is being sold at Payless. So we need to take a look at that, but we're definitely going to look at the excessive use end of it from an ABC standpoint, in addition to what Dale Finch and them are doing. If that many calls, if they're selling alcohol to visibly intoxicated people, that's a violation of ABC statutes right there alone. So we will be looking at that first thing tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Paul, can you look into those things? Okay. Anyone else on this subject?
Yeah, has there ever
Put one up on
been
there.
any time when store owners are required to live in the city, anything like that?
No.
Never, no
No.
legislation like that or
No,
anything, right?
we can't, I know we can't do that.
Well, because the
Carl
truth
can
is-
ask from legal standpoint, is there any way we could do that, Carl?
We'll pass ordinances.
Put your thing down so you can.
I'm sorry. We passed ordinances for people working in the city, but this is different.
All right, so the truth is that, I mean, a lot of us don't even go in the stores. I don't even go in the stores. You're scared to go in the stores, for one thing.
Yes.
You know, secondly, it seems to me that they're afraid to even come to our meetings. You know, they don't really have any vested interest. These owners don't have any vested interest,
Mhm.
you know, in the city, in our neighborhoods, okay? So, I mean, they don't even live over here. They don't even want to live over here where their business is. They chose to live elsewhere. They don't want to send their children, most of them to our schools and everything. All right, now I'm not saying that about a lot of them, some of them do, but for the for the majority, most of them don't care to send their children over to our schools. So, you know, I mean, it's obvious even by the lack of attendance of the store owners here. We have 97 stores, and how many are here? 97 stores?
But there's something on here, but okay.
Yes, some of them, but it's not 97 store owners here, right?
Right.
So, I don't understand why there's even a need for 97 stores. Because who's going to the stores? I'm trying to understand who's going to the stores. The kids are going in there for candy after the school, and, you know, and then the trash is all over the streets too.
Mhm.
You know, but other than that, I'm scared to even go in the stores.
I hear you.
I think most of us are scared to even go in the stores.
Before we go any further, is there a store owner or a store manager that would like to make a comment? A store owner or a store manager would like to make a comment? No? Okay. Please.
Hello. On the topic of creative solutions
Mhm.
to some of these problems,
And you are?
Oh, my name is Randy, and I just moved back to the city. I don't know which ward I live in.
That doesn't make a difference. Go ahead.
But are there programs I should ask, are there monies available that the city could provide if we in the community are interested in buying out some of the store owners, right? Because if they don't want to be here and we're interested in having more control in the type of environment that we live in, are there monies or entrepreneurship classes that are available to help us get that control?
Well, there are entrepreneurship classes that can teach you how to write a business plan and how to get involved in business. But if the question is, does the city have money to give you a grant to buy out a business? No, we don't have that kind of funding. But there is, at the Carnegie, Stockton has a division there that they can teach you, excuse me, they can teach you how to develop a business plan, how to go in business and the processes that you need to do that. But the funding, the city is not in a financial position to do that. But there is training for you. In fact, that's probably the better thing, to have the proper training and know what you need to do to be successful. And then if you can get that, then you'll be halfway to success.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who wants to speak to this issue? To this issue?
Yes, sir. My name is Ronald Edwards.
Yes, sir.
When the city has been placed on notice about certain areas where there's an abundance of loitering, drug dealing openly, how difficult is it to have the patrols, to have that area patrolled more often? To have at least a greater presence, even to just driving through and making them disperse? Because that's the issue that I've been having. And there's a store right there in my neighborhood that now seems to be a safe haven. And I've
Safe
worked
haven
out,
for,
excuse me,
a safe haven for,
for the drug dealing.
gotcha, okay.
Let me touch on that. It's kind of difficult for a uniform officer to make an apprehension if someone is out in location selling drugs. Because they'll see the officer for the officer to even get close enough towards it. So we have guys to do that. I mean, actually, we don't have enough of them. But there's a misnomer about loitering. Everyone has a constitutional right to stand out on the sidewalk as long as you're not committing a crime. And what is happening, and this is a good thing, with the onset of our body-worn cameras, our officers are even reluctant, if they don't observe any criminal activity, to try to tell someone to move along. They're afraid of internal affairs complaints, and what have you. But we're trying to convince them to use the power of persuasion. You don't always have to come to arrest somebody, but get them to voluntarily move along. Now, what happens is they'll move along. Majority of people will if they're asked by the officers. But as soon as the officers leave, they're coming right back.
Chief, I understand what you're saying. And that's only part of the problem. The other part of the problem is some of the stores that you're talking about are safe havens for drug dealing. And that's the main issue, because that is what creates the loitering. And it's the same, if you look at it, it's the same faces over and over. So if you're giving notice, for instance, you're saying you're using cameras, I can appreciate that. But I think that there's something else that goes with that to help reduce the problems that we're having in the community.
Well, see, I'm glad you said that, because I think that's one of the keys. Probably, and the police obviously have more information than we do, probably the stores that actually have the cameras that Chief Starkos talked about, I would suggest that those stores don't have the loitering problem. And the problem that the stores that have, as you said, safe havens, they don't have the cameras. That's why we want to start a push to get them to get the cameras, because once they get the cameras, that'll give the police a greater scrutiny, and hopefully that will encourage the people who are doing the things you say not to go in those stores.
What it would give us is the probable cause for the uniform guys not on the scene to make an arrest.
I understand.
Because they already witnessed, if someone is out there dealing drugs, they already witnessed a crime taking place. But now, one thing, Councilman, I think that we can do to maybe encourage the businesses to participate in this Project PAC. The city can, I believe, pass an ordinance restricting the hours of the convenience stores in town. Now, those that don't participate in Project PAC with cameras, their hours are restricted. Those that have these cameras in Project PAC, they could stay open longer hours, I believe.
Can we do that, Carl?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you looking?
As long as you do it for everyone.
Carl, also, can we look at changing the zoning on these stores so that the signage in the windows is drastically reduced, so that there's more visibility from the street, so it's not such a safe haven in these stores?
Carl?
If it's done and it's done in an even-handed way, it affects all businesses the same. You probably do it. The only concern is that businesses who receive some type of
They can't hear you.
if you can do it in such a way that it affects all businesses the same, that no one feels that they're being singled out. You can do things like that. The only concern is that if they're receiving like advertising revenue, and that's the reason they're just throwing it up everywhere. You're gonna have to do.
So, we've done that in the tourism district. And I think we mirrored your current ordinances from if you have glass, it's gotta be 33% open. So 2/3 of it have to be open so you can see in. That's something outside the tourism district you guys can change. And if you need it, the police officers need it less than that, we're gonna be doing some amendments to our regs probably in January. We can make it's gotta be 50% open. You know, these businesses put up, and it's not necessarily for market, well, it is for marketing, but it's not paid for by advertisers. It's them putting up, the cigarette advertisements or whatever else they might be trying to sell in there, that they just cover their windows with. And that's a problem. first of all, it's unsightly, it's not aesthetic. That's the reasons it's really drafted in the ordinances, but certainly we can get together with Dale, and if it needs to be a higher percentage of open glass, we can certainly do that. We can certainly do that. From our standpoint, that's an easy one for us. I think if the city can do it, you can do it faster. You can do it in a month. It takes me a little bit longer, because ours are state regs, but you guys can do it outside the tourism district, you know, within a month. And if you want 50%, let me know that number. And you're gonna get some squawking, and it's gonna be really hard to enforce, but it can be done. It can be done. We've started doing it on the boardwalks, the boardwalk, excuse me. So it's certainly, that's a good idea. I also like the idea of you know, restricting the hours. Doing something like that with it. Thanks.
Kevin Sparks, what's it costing the merchant owners to participate in that?
So depending on their system, usually there's no additional cost. I mean, most systems have remote viewing capabilities at no additional cost. Now, if they don't have a system, then it's gonna be initial startup fees.
Okay.
The system we use, Genetec, if they get the Genetec system, there's no additional fees to connect with us. If they have Hike Vision, there's no additional fees to connect with us. If they have Jersey Shore CCTV, no additional fees. So normally, it's just the initial cost of that system, but as far as remotely connecting to us, there's gonna be no fees. Now, of course, they have to have internet, and they have to have sufficient upload speed so that we can watch that video and not get bogged down. So there is the fee of internet connection, but what we find is most stores already have the internet, you already have the system, it's just a matter of giving us the access.
So if it's no cost, if they have the system, can we, via ordinance, as it pertains to the mercantile license, make that a requirement in order to obtain the mercantile license, that you have to, that be one of the requirements?
I think that'd be a lot tougher to pass the muster than it would be to have a curfew. Say, if you have it, you can stay open all night. If you don't have it, you close at 10 o'clock. I think that's easier to do than through the mercantile issue, I believe, on the surface.
I tell you what we'll do, Clint, we have our solicitor here, he's gonna research all that, and when he gives us that back, whatever he tells us that we can do legally, we'll sponsor, and we'll just do it. But obviously, whatever we do has to conform to the law. Yes. Remember days you had to?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got to leave, I have class to teach.
Right.
But I was thinking, Chief, that maybe a simple solution that could help with the loitering is that I notice sometimes, you know, the police or the city takes a break somewhere in the city and sit for a minute to do their paperwork. What if they could park or post themselves by one of the areas of loitering and just let the light go on for about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm sure that will cause them to really disperse.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Even something else we can do, Adam, remember as you're standing up there, there's a county-wide program through JEBS for job training, job placement, job training skills for youth between the ages of 18 and 24. And one of the criteria is to be available for that program is not employed, not in school, and these are just the demographics that are hanging out in front of these businesses. Maybe we can team up with groups of people and go around and engage these young men and women that are hanging out in front of these stores and offer them some of these services. That would be a big help also.
And can we put some of those in their window? The signs, they don't put all that other signs up, the cigarettes and all that type of stuff. They can put signs up offering some kind of program for the people that is hanging out, the young men that is hanging out in front of their store. And another thing I said the last time I was at the meeting was, when we do the marches around Tuesday March, around the neighborhood, we need to march in front of those stores.
Yeah.
And let them know we're here and we're seeing what they're doing.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Chief Inspector Chance Dean, Land City Mercantile Park.
Chief Inspector.
Second shift. And again, good evening, everybody. The reason, from a study that we studied being out in the field, the reason why most of the convenience stores exist because we don't have a quality supermarket. We need a quality supermarket, not just a supermarket that what we have now with the no frills, and
Gotcha.
we need a supermarket that's going to really cater to the needs of the people. So that would eliminate a lot of the convenience stores. I'm gonna go back to signage. Signage, it needs to be more time sensitive, because when you have signage that says Newport cigarettes, that could last forever. So that sign could stay up blocking that percentage of view. So if the signs, we can get it where they have to be time sensitive, where it at a certain point it has to come down. Then it would alleviate and give you more visibility in the windows. And for us, our hands are tied somewhat in Mercantile, because we can enforce somewhat with their pricing and what they're advertising at a certain point, but the way our ordinances read out, it kind of limits us in doing so. Even so, with the loose cigarettes, we can enforce that under misrepresentation, but because we're uniform, it's hard for us to really, make that bust. So that would fall under ACPD advice and how you would do it. But we can try to work together somewhat on that, just in information, where we could go and we can write the ticket. Same with the little bottles in the liquor stores. That's that's ABC. But that brings those loose cigarettes and those little small bottles brings that clientele of the people who buy drugs. So if you eliminate the loose cigarettes, the small bottles, you eliminate that clientele that stands in front of the stores where the drug dealers attract to them, and you eliminate somewhat. That, along with getting the supermarket in to eliminate some of the convenience stores. Moving on, I'm trying to remember everything here.
Let's take your time. Within 3 minutes, but take your time.
Okay. The camera system, it has to be extended to the individual. You can't really have a total success on the camera, so you have to limit to that person who owns a home. They has to be able to be under that camera system also, to be like, okay, when they come out of that business area, what I like to that elite, that business district, when you come out of the area, they need in that personal area, you can pick them up in that area, so that alleviates that. You got them in a total net. Outreach services has to go beyond, with the drug and jobs and all, it has to go beyond that age of 24. Because demographics, I don't know what kind of demographics they're coming up with, but a lot of those cats that's standing out there, they go 24, 25, 26, 27, in their 30s. And we're remiss in getting them the programs that they need. Yeah, let's see, okay. Browns Park. I miss Browns Park, because when Browns Park was eliminated and it changed up, it spreaded the problem. You know that. So it has to be a way, you gotta recontain it somewhere else. I don't know how you're gonna do it. You watch The Wire, they did it. So it has to be recontained some kind of way. You can't leave that, spread it out, lowering the quality of life throughout the neighborhood, the whole city. You have to bring that limit back some kind of way. That's a joint effort. It has to be done. And that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just say this for everybody's information about the quality supermarket. That is an active project that CRDA is working on, and we're working in conjunction with them. There's a consultant who has done these kind of projects in other urban areas, and they are working as we speak. And I think very soon we'll have some positive announcements about a real supermarket. So that's coming up. Is anyone who hasn't spoke, who wants to speak? Yes, sir.
I just have one thing.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know about the loose cigarettes. The crack pipes is also sold out of these stores.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there something that y'all could do about that?
Crack pipes.
Yes. All the stores sell it.
So when it comes to that paraphernalia, it is a little difficult for us. When we go into these stores and they have, in essence, what's a crack pipe, but it has a rose in it, And I go in the store, and if I asked for a crack pipe and they sold me that, I could arrest them for selling drug paraphernalia. They never are gonna say that. If I go in and ask for a crack pipe, they're gonna not say anything.
Well,
If I go in and I just buy that rose that's in an object that can be used as a crack pipe, there's no violation of the law there. Unfortunately, we know why people are buying it, but unless they sell it for the purpose of it being a crack pipe, which I have to prove, it's very difficult. So we can send an undercover cop in there and ask for a crack pipe, and if they were to sell us one, they would get charged, but it's not gonna happen.
So you say they don't advertise it as a crack pipe?
No, it's a little,
Okay.
it's a glass pipe with a rose in it,
It's a crack pipe, they don't.
but it's a crack pipe. You know, they sell rolling paper that can be used to roll marijuana, but it also can be used to roll tobacco. So, they sell little plastic baggies that can be used to package drugs, that can also package buttons. No one's buying it for buttons, but it's problematic for us to charge. Loose cigarettes, we've charged the stores many times with loose cigarettes. Unfortunately, the fine they get is probably less than what they make in a day. So to them, they just continue to sell loose cigarettes. But we have partnered with state taxation on addressing these stores with untaxed cigarettes, with counterfeit cigarettes, or cigarettes that don't have the New Jersey sales tax stamp. And, you know, it's a constant battle, but it is one that we're working on. And
Carl,
try to
that's
do
not-
a little bit more.
I'm sorry, that's not a municipal fine, is it, for loose cigarettes?
That's a state law.
That's the state law. There's nothing we can do on the municipal level to increase the fine? Or could we fine them?
So Carl, maybe that's something, if we're entertaining this ordinance that, you know, you get restricted hours, maybe if they have a violation of that, we can also restrict their hours too, so a little more of an incentive instead of that, just that small state fine. Also restrict their hours. If they sell a loose cigarette and get caught, your hours are restricted. I think that'll be a lot more effective.
And I'm just thinking, what the director said, sometimes they go out of business at one license and then get another license. Maybe we can put something that goes with the location, saying if this location has issues and go out of business, they can't come back in that location to try to curb that. Is anyone here who hasn't spoken wants to speak? Anyone who hasn't spoken wants to speak? Clint?
Councilman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just briefly
Do
a little revision of history.
Okay, I'll tell you like I told the chief inspector, take your time,
3
it'll be under
minutes.
3 minutes, yeah.
As it pertains to Renaissance Plaza
Yes, sir.
and Payless Liquor. And we'll go back to the 80s, when this was under planning for Renaissance Plaza. First, the original design of Renaissance Plaza originally isn't the design that it is now.
Right.
It wasn't turned in and enclosed, because those stores were to be faced on Arctic as well as on Kentucky Avenue. But they changed the design and they enclosed it. They put Post-Time Liquors out of business, which was Bob McCurdy's store, because they talked about the clientele that was there. And that Payless Liquor was going to cater to a higher class clientele that wasn't going to be foot, it was going to be mobile. So you had a higher class clientele that was to visit that store. Moving forward, the same clientele that was at Post Time is the same clientele that's at Payless. And so if we can look at the plan for Payless and what their initial offering was, if this is what they stated that that business was going to be, and they haven't adhered to that, that may be something that we need to revisit, and maybe something there that we can utilize some type of leverage in order to bring them into greater compliance. But you have the same clientele that was at Post Time that's at that clientele now.
No doubt about it. All right, thank you, Clint. Anyone else who has not spoken who wants to speak? Okay, we'll take closing comments from the people in the dais, and then I will conclude, and then we will let you go, starting with Chief Sarkis.
Well, first I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to come out here. I'd like to thank the store owners who take the time to come out. And I probably would be remiss if I didn't say that there are some very good store owners here. I see Issa's here from Cedar Market. He's worked with us many times. I think he's going to be a Project PAC participant pretty soon. We've talked about it. And you know, I think we'll all collectively work together and move forward with this. I think Project PAC, though, has the ability to really help solve a lot of these problems. And we're going to continue to try to push it and get as many stores as part of it as we can. And I think it'll help address the issues, and we'll try to work a little bit harder on addressing the issues with the loose cigarettes and try to see what we can do to work with the city about those ordinances we talked about.
Chief?
I would just like as well to thank everybody for coming out tonight. The one last thing I would want to add is, and this is more for the neighborhood stores, who live near those stores, help us identify if there's any environmental factors that may be contributing to the loitering, whether it be poor lighting, trees need to be trimmed, maybe trash cans the kids sit on that can be moved, benches, anything like that that might kind of draw people to sit and stand in those places. Stuff that we can maybe easily change, and environmentally we can maybe reduce some of the loitering. So if you see any of that, just let us know, and we'll try and address it that way as well. Thank you.
Rick?
Yeah, I think we can look at this calls for service at Payless the next couple of days and see what we can look at there and see what the history has been, and bring them in for a hearing and start finding them. That's always a way to get people in the pocketbook to get compliance.
That's right.
And also with the signage in the windows, it's something we can work with the CRDA and try to get Mercantile involved more in that. That's necessary to, improve what they're doing in compliance with the ordinance. So moving forward, it's a good start. Keep on going.
Thank you. Chief?
As the city is coming back and rebounding from the economic problems that's taking place around the country, the government needs to rebound. And, as violent crime is going down in Atlantic City, but violent crime is going down across the country. What we need to start looking at is what everyone is most concerned about is the quality of life issues. That's what's not decreasing here in Atlantic City. And at some point, all of us, the residents, the city workers, everybody needs to get together and talk to the state. We need to start adding public employees back onto the payroll here in Atlantic City, whether it's Mercantile, Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, because all of that is going to contribute to better services that the citizens of Atlantic City need to experience. And it would also enhance the economy here also. So we can't disregard that. At some point, you're going to have to say with the state, look, enough is enough. You've shrunk city government down so much that it's difficult to deliver the type of services that the residents here in Atlantic City deserve. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chief. Let me just say, we thank all of you for coming out. You will hear a follow-up on all this. The CRDA, we're working with them on the cameras, and thank Lance Lanford for coming. There's going to be more cameras in Renaissance Plaza, which is one of my chief priorities in addition to the other things. We're going to reach out again to the store owners, and thank you, Issa, for coming with regard to the PAC program and other store owners who are here. And I will make a prediction that many store owners are going to support this program. I've talked to some of them, and some of them have some maybe cultural issues about not coming, maybe some language concerns, but we're going to continue to reach out to them. The excessive use for calls, Timbers from the solicitor's office is a very competent attorney, and he's going to make sure that all of the things that we talked about, that we can put in legislation, he gets to me so I can introduce that. And he's going to take a look on the thing, particularly about the hours. I think that makes sense. And we'll look at that, and you will be hearing as we go forward, as we introduce those legislative things to City Council. And hopefully, we'll call another meeting to report to you what we've done legislatively, what we've done with the police, what we've done with the cameras, and the other issues that have brought forth. You can also feel comfortable to call this number, 347-5510, 609 area code. That's the city clerk's office. If you have a concern about the stores, you can call and leave them. That's the number that you can reach me at, 609-347-5510. And again, to the chief inspector, I think the supermarket, as you said, is a big concern just for everybody. You will be hearing more about the supermarket as we go forward. Again, thank you all, and that concludes.
Thank you.